Hello world, my name is Timothy Halloran. As I've been before, as I am now, I am a human being. One person. I am also an unaccredited, unofficial, uncertified, lifelong student of astrology. And since I'm giving this concise, authentic introduction, I might as well go on to say that I am not a spiritual guru. I am not a personal savior. I am not a divine prodigy. And so, of course, and as always, take everything that I say with a grain of salt. It is up to you, your own thought processing, your own owning your own truth, coming to your own conclusions, making your own decisions, and being your own authority. And so I am none of those things, but I do know the time, and it's approximately 3:20 p.m., Wednesday, December 13th, 2017. And it's a profound time. It can potentially be a heavy time. It's a very real time. We're getting down to business. We're seeing what needs to be built. We're seeing what we need to construct, where we need to go. And there's a lot of deep processing and mulling over and putting together, deconstructing, reconstructing that can be going on this month of December. We are in the midst of Mercury Retrograde, which in itself, very self-reflective, introverted, scrutinizing thinking. And you may have noticed this is not your average Mercury Retrograde. As we talked about in the last video, this Mercury Retrograde began on December 3rd, conjunct Saturn. And Mercury's been moving retrograde the last 2 weeks and is now leaving the conjunction from Saturn. And in a couple weeks, we'll station direct, Friday, December 22nd at 13 degrees Sagittarius, trine the moon's north node, but also square to Neptune. And so, not your average Mercury retrograde, very profound, very deep, very scrutinizing. Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, we are finding our purpose, our truth, and our alignment in orientation to the world and society. And we're having to integrate ourselves into the world and society without sacrificing our truth, who we actually are, and what gives us a sense of purpose and meaning in our life. And that in itself has quite a boatload of work accompanying it. We've got to get down to business in order to make our truth, our purpose, have an actual functioning, serving, real-world application, which is in itself a requirement of addressing the world, addressing real-world problems, potentially addressing creative blockages or brick walls constructed by our world, our culture, what we're born into, how we are relating to external authorities, how we're relating to very three-dimensional real-world things. Because, of course, this is a period that's very Saturn-centric. And part of this period is almost an exploration of who and what the hell is Saturn. And Saturn is actually just introducing himself at this time, because in just another week he will move into his own sign of Capricorn, Tuesday, December 19th, and remain there for the next 2.5 years. And Saturn will be joined by the Sun and Venus as they move into Capricorn. The Sun moves into Capricorn, as always, every single year on the winter solstice, when the Sun's incoming rays are aligned with the Tropic of Capricorn, is the moment every single year the Sun enters Capricorn, and the Sun will join Saturn, December 21st. Then several days later, Venus moves into Capricorn and joins Saturn on December 25th. And so, this is a Saturnarian winter solstice, Saturnarian Christmas. It is a time to look at what is real, what is actually going on in our world, in our culture, in our society. And I couldn't think of a better holiday/celebration to do this type of critical introduction to the real than being on Christmas. What's going on with our culture? What's going on with our world? Where is this season of Christmas? Where is this sense of family and working together and this magical time? Because the December Sagittarius season oftentimes does carry this type of energy. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which is the planet of exploration and expansion. Jupiter gives us the sense that life is an adventure and that there's something new to be explored. It's this very magical childhood realization that our life is an adventure of self-discovery, that it's not so much a final judgment, dying and then either go to heaven or hell. It's what does it mean to be a human being? What does it mean to be on planet Earth? What are this natural world that we're a part of? This is the feeling, the sensation of Sagittarius, the traveler, the adventurer, the hitchhiker, the spiritual teacher, so on and so forth. And yet Saturn at 29 degrees Sagittarius, and Jupiter being in Scorpio, these are very, very real signs. And it's almost as this expansive journeying and exploring nature of Jupiter is having to contract into the form, the substance, the three-dimensional reality that is Saturn. And so during this period, there can be some of this expansion, contraction. I want to explore this. I don't want to be a part of this. This is where things are opening up. This is where things are getting closed down. Here's where I want to go. Here's where the limitations are obstructing my journey. And so this is a time of doing this deep processing, really mulling it over. This Mercury retrograde is profound, deep, scrutinizing, and it has the opportunity to take us into our truth. When Mercury stations direct on Friday, December 22nd, trine the moon's north node, that's a signature that there can be realizations. And even if, a couple days ago, December 12th, the Sun conjunct Mercury retrograde, realizations, going inside, processing, and this can continue moving forward. More turn of events, more realizations as we are finding what is our truth, what is our purpose, and how can we align our own lives, our own patterns, our own ambitions to be aligned with that truth. We are needing to align our ambitions and ethics, Jupiter and Saturn, to actually work in a harmonious, healthy, and functioning way, which is part of the reason why I'm being transparent. I'm not a spiritual teacher. I'm not a saint, because I'm an astrologer in a male body, and there's a lot of projection onto people in this role that you must be one of those things in order to do that. Hell no! Hell no! A huge part of my own work is just my own shadow, my own journey, my own blocks, and I'm trying to share and teach myself how to overcome these things and kind of share the results with other people. If that be of any benefit, then wonderful. So Saturn's on my personal descendant right now. I don't even want to really show my face. I've been having a lot of negative interactions, but I'm also having to be very real about my expression. Because I'm going to be quite frank, there are a ton of so-called self-entitled, self-proclaimed spiritual teachers, gurus, saints, astrologers, whatever the fuck, that say one thing and do another thing, preach one thing and live another way, have a persona that's bright and shiny and has a shadow that's hidden and completely opposite to the life they live. This is about finding your own truth. We don't just want to grab onto the heels of the so-called teacher, the so-called authority coming from the top-down hierarchies that have already been constructed and built. Because guess what? Jupiter and Scorpio and Saturn going into Capricorn is real talk. And the reality that is dawning, and we're all waking up into, is that all of the constructs, the hierarchies that have already been set in place and given to us by our generations prior to us, our parents, the religions, the government structures, the cultural structures, we're realizing that these things are not perfect. Of course not. Nothing's ever perfect. Things always have to change. And yet there are hierarchies, there are systems, there are conceptual programs that we've received since day one up until now that have to be adjusted. And so as Saturn transits his own sign of Capricorn, getting down to business, the next 2.5 years. The process is tearing down, deconditioning, rolling back, unwinding, decluttering all of that conceptual programming we've received from our authorities, our parents, our teachers since day one, and then building it afresh, a new foundation. And you are making the foundation. You are the authority. You are your own teacher that is the only person who can give the green light to yourself of what is true. What is your truth? Jupiter transiting Scorpio is the true. It's the muddy, sometimes dark, nobody wants to really look at it, and yet it is reality side of things. Reality is multifaceted, it is complicated, it is not a black or white, right or wrong reality in which we live. The true is complicated, it's messy, it's sometimes dark, it's sometimes intimidating, particularly for those souls that want everything to be black and white, who want to grip onto the heels of some divine saint who's going to take them into ascension or enlightenment. And this is avoiding reality. Jupiter is square the moon's nodes, December 24th, which means this is a transiting skipped step. Do not avoid reality. Do not avoid your own shadow. Do not pretend that you are one thing when you know you are another. That's the true. And guess what? We all have a shadow. We all have a dark place. I have never met a single other human being in my life who was shadowless, who did not walk in the sunlight and not cast a shadow, as if they weren't a human being or some ghost. You know, that's not reality. Jupiter square the moon's nodes is one part get down to business. Do not avoid what you're intuiting, what you're seeing. Do not sweep anything under the rug. As we've been saying ever since Jupiter went into Scorpio and all these sex scandals and everything keep coming out, they will continue to keep coming out. And if you hide anything, you are setting yourself up for disaster. We have to be vulnerable. We have to somehow unwind and resolve our own shadows. And that's what makes somebody a truly real human, is if they're vulnerable and if they're true with their own things. And this is part of my own sharing and my own process. Again, that it will continue to come, in my own future unwinding. And it's an exploration. How is this going to work? How is this not going to work? But we all have to support each other in this endeavor. We have to support each other in getting into our emotions, being real, holding space for one another to express the parts of ourselves that we feel guilty about, that we feel sad about. Oh, it turns out I'm not God. Oh, it turns out I'm not a saint. Oh, it's okay. It's okay, my friends. It's okay. This is not necessarily a witch-burning time. We shouldn't be going on these crusades in an unhelpful, overly dramatic, unabashed way that will only backfire. If we go on these crusades, then people react and crusade against us, and then we just have crusadedom. So we have to be supportive. We have to have emotional intimacy. I care about you. I genuinely do. But these are real issues that have to be resolved. Otherwise, it's not going to help anybody. These are the types of conversations and processings that we can be doing at this time. I love you. I know this is scary and this is difficult. I know this is not what you want to hear. But I'm here for you. And we're not going to string you up or burn you at the stake or anything like this. This is a way to get into that skipped step of Jupiter in Scorpio. What also is the skipped step Jupiter in Scorpio is find your personal truth that is coming from the depths of your own soul, your deep emotions. This is who I am. I'm not going to sacrifice myself anymore to adhere some particular rules or regulations that do not apply to my reality, what I see, what I experience. And you can put it to the test. Find your truth and don't set it to the side. Don't sacrifice yourself to appease something or to play the game. Let's talk about Saturn. Yes, speaking of playing the game. What is Saturn? Who the hell is Saturn is sort of what we're trying to figure out right now. collectively, all of us have sort of had a skewed perspective of Saturn, as Saturn and Capricorn have been the signs, the planets that have been the most repressed and distorted and confused and overridden by man-made concepts and beliefs and hierarchies that are not natural. So what the hell is natural Capricorn? What the hell is natural Saturn? Is a part of our ongoing collective human evolution at this particular time. But at this particular time, the way that we know and relate to Saturn is he is Father Time. He is Father Winter. He is the Lord of three-dimensional limitation, karma, cause and effect. You do this, this is the law that will cause this reaction. Three-dimensional reality means that there are rules and regulations in our life. Yes, we have free will. Yes, we have the option to choose what to do with the nature that we are born into, what we will. And yet simultaneously, we don't have the freedom to just grow wings and fly around like a little birdie, or grow gills and breathe underwater. We are limited to the nature that we are. Saturn holds us in our body, holds us in our karma, holds us in time, because Saturn is the planet of mastery. How are you going to achieve your potential with these limitations, with these constraints, with these limited resources? Is some of the challenge of Saturn. And it's a lot of get down to business, you know. I don't want to say this is a 2.5 years of winter time in a way that's like depressing or the end of the world or everything's going to go to shit and it's going to be mass starvation or anything like this. It's more like, what does winter time mean? It means that, you know, it's freaking cold out. I'm cold right now. You've got to wear some layers. You've got to get prepared. You've got to get real. You've got to prepare for winter. This was how humanity lived for many, many, many centuries up until recently. You got to grow enough crops to survive the winter. That's longevity. That's practicality. Practicality, practicality. This is Saturn. Is it working? Is it functioning? This is not just about idle fantasies and dreaming ourselves into a better world, a better career, or a better relationship. This is about making these things actually work. This is the business that we've enrolled to, being human beings, my friends. And yet, Saturn and Capricorn, like we said, it's been distorted, it's been suppressed by man-made concepts, hierarchy, structures. This is what you're supposed to do. Oh, you're a woman, you're supposed to behave this way. Make sure that you're behind the scenes, that you're not being too powerful, or you'll get the wag of the finger. Men, do not show any emotions. No tears, men. Make sure that you're pissed off and angry only. That's the way that you've been conditioned to be, you know. Saturn, bullshit stuff. That limitation and conditioning coming from culture, society, and authorities, that's not true. That's not healthy. That's not natural. And so this is the Saturn game. And let me tell you, we've all become real fucking great at playing this game in this day and age. Oh, let me do this thing out there in the world when I'm with my peers in order to impress everybody, and it just has no valid connection to reality whatsoever, you know? Oh, I'm going to play this game to make so much money to prove my own security and worth to myself and my own parents who conditioned me that that's what I have to be in order to be a successful human being. What is real strength? What is real success? Ask these questions right now. Sorry I'm yelling. This is something I get heated up about because guess what? Many of us souls have been suppressed and damned and imprisoned by these games. Sort of like, oh, you're in a black ethnicity, so, oh, I guess that you're not as intelligent. Has been the game of Western cultural society. And by the way, I'm defending other ethnicities. I'm defending other, genders. We all have to stand up for one another and embody our truth by not allowing these stupid, superficial rules and regulations to oppress us. And it's our responsibility to stand up and fight for our truth in many respects. Because we, me and you, my brothers and sisters, are the leaders, are the authorities who are deconditioning the old world knocking down the old, weak, rusty columns that are threatening the structure in order to replace healthy, strong foundations that actually honor what the potential of humanity is. And part of that is creating structures that can also change. Not this is the law, this is how it is. You're this gender, you're this ethnicity, that's how it is. You're this age, that's how it is. You're at this stage in the process, that's how it is. Bullshit. This is all just a bunch of mostly man-made hierarchical games. So that way people can feel like they're in power. People can feel like they're entitled. People can feel like they're special. People can feel like they can dictate other people, is why those hierarchies have been built in the very first place. It's in order to herd people like sheep. And that's disrespectful. And so this requires a lot of honesty. This requires a lot of transparency in terms of our own shadows, where that conditioning has taken place in us, and then being vulnerable. This is where I've been conditioned. This is where I struggle. This is where I feel imprisoned. I have a hard time speaking up for myself because I feel so inadequate because, you know, my parents conditioned me to feel like I'm a woman and I'm just stupid. This is an example. And it's not universal. I have to be so careful with what I'm saying these days because it's like I'll speak up and defend a minority group and then people get angry at me for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's Mercury Retrograde and people just, it's difficulty with communication or something like this. I'm trying to be very clear. Each and every person has their own truth, their own path. There's no one size fits all. And you are the authority. You are the owner of your own truth. And that truth is your gift to the world, as well as your work, because it's what you've got to do. It's what you've got to put into action. It's what you've got to actually construct. Saturn. So what's the high octave Saturn? What's the missing face of Saturn that we don't know? And again, I'm looking for it myself. Mercury's going to station retrograde in a week square to Neptune. We're still mulling things over. We still don't have everything in the world figured out. No one should. People who proclaim to have everything figured out can nearly guarantee you they're complete frauds. Complete frauds. And there are many, many of them out there. Just being honest. And so, what is the high octave Saturn? Is that we've got work to do and we can do it. You are strong. You are capable. You can be so productive. You can build the life that you want to live. You can be the person that you want to be. You can partake in the groups and organizations that you want to, and maybe if you haven't found the group or the organization that you want to participate in, maybe if you haven't found the work or career that you want to participate in, or you haven't found a way to make money without self-sacrificing in some way, maybe you are the authority, the builder, the construction crew who is here to bring those things into this world. And guess what? This is the initiation of the building phase that will take us through the next several years. And when Saturn goes into Capricorn, Saturn is the planet of three-dimensional reality. When we look at astrology, all of these planets deal with all the aspects of reality, some of which are very, very subtle. And so plenty of people say astrology is bullshit. I don't see those subtle things. Well, things become pretty in our face with Saturn. The world's going to see the problems, the obstructions, the work that needs to get done these next couple of years. It's already really being awakened at this time, yeah? So it is a time where there is an opportunity for maximum productivity. We can really get stuff done. Yes, you can lay that foundation. Yes, you can be that authority. Yes, you can make these changes. And so right now we're in the midst of this deep processing, awakening, realizing, mulling it over. You don't have to have it all figured out or put all your eggs in one basket right now. There's a period of deep healing going on right now. The sun is coming up to square Chiron, Friday, December 15th. What is our purpose? What is our truth? How to come into our creativity, and what has hurt us? What has obstructed us from actualizing confidence in our own individual, spontaneous, playful self-expression? This is the North Node in Leo, ruled by the sun. North Node in Leo is joined with asteroid Ceres. It's about finding out how to nurture that inner child so to become confident in our own unique self-expression. But yes, there can be wounds in the way. Yes, there can be things that hurt us, and there is a healing opportunity going on this next week, particularly the 15th, where it's like, okay, how do we come into that deeper hero's journey, that spiritual quest of healing ourself, which awakens our heart to compassion by understanding the difficulties of the world, so we can extend that compassion to helping others in their own challenges, so on and so forth. That's the mastery of Chiron. Venus moves on to square Chiron Wednesday, December 20th. Who we're connecting to, our relationships. There can be a sense of woundedness. I feel isolated. I feel misunderstood. A healing opportunity going on in our relationships these days. How can we be heard? How can we honor in our own heart what we truly value enough to cause a natural magnetism that attracts the people who value and love the similar things that we do? And it's about healing our heart. It's about healing what we love and what we value. And so this Sagittarius journey, Venus and Sag, exploring relationships. What do we love? What are the things that connect us to other people? What is our mutual philosophy? What is our mutual agreement? And again, a lot can be happening in healing relationships these weeks. Venus squared Neptune a few days ago, Sunday, December 10th. And that was a third quarter square, crisis in consciousness. Is this relationship really working? Is this really working, these connections with other people? Does this really honor my own goals? Does this really honor my ideals? Is this really what our relationship is supposed to be? Is this that lovely romantic thing that we set off to achieve? That can be some of the questions brought up. That Venus-Neptune square can be reflecting back to the last Venus-Neptune conjunction, which was January 12th at the beginning of this year. What seeds were sown then? How are we connecting with others then? And this Venus square questions those things. Is it moving in that direction? Have we made those ideals real? Are we living up to our goals and our dreams? And the third quarter square is a crisis of consciousness. I don't know. Things are moving forward. There is a reconceptualization of how we are connecting and sharing with others in order to express our dreams, our goals, our deepest spiritual longing and truth, to connect with others in an ideal way. Now, another big shift is actually asteroid Juno. Has been in Capricorn since February of this year. Moving back and forth, retrograde. It's like this whole year, Juno, the asteroid of partnerships, has been getting to work. This is like connecting with business associates. How are we going to function together? How is this working? How is this practical? Let's make this real. Let's make this structured. And asteroid Juno is moving into Aquarius, Saturday, December 16th. And will remain there until February of 2018. And Juno in Aquarius is liberation. How do we integrate our own unique, eccentric uniqueness? Us being an individual creative soul who's unabashed, spontaneous, creative, not defined by any expectations or obligations coming from the reflection of relationship. How can we embody that and simultaneously be in a potentially committed relationship? Anyways, how can we share our own truth with others? This isn't just intimate relationships, this is all connections, our work associates, our friends. How can we be in our own truth, our own wild, unique nature? Because there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all. There is no such thing as normal. What normal is a cultural construct, Saturn. And oftentimes that cultural construct limits or even oppresses our own truth, our own spontaneous nature, and our own playful self-expression. So the key always goes back to the moon's north node in Leo. We're healing our inner child. This isn't about beating ourselves up because we can't always fit the bill of what other people expect from us all the time. We're not going to be understood by every person on the planet. We're not going to be understood by every person on the planet because we are our own unique expression. Just like how there's a million different instruments in the orchestra creating the symphony, people tune in and prefer different instruments, but all of it's still interconnected and all of it serves the beauty of the music and the orchestra. And so it's just understanding, this is my instrument, this is my song, this is what I sing in the shower when nobody's looking. And so this is the dual dynamic and challenge of this time. How to integrate our truth, our personal ontology, what we see and perceive as true, that sense of purpose, that life is an adventure, and gives us a sense of meaning, why we wake up in the morning. How to integrate that with our constructed work, how we're doing in the world, what we're doing out there with other people, what we're doing in a practical three-dimensional way, how to integrate these things together. And it's going to require deconstruction, deconditioning, stripping down the stuff that isn't authentically you, the stuff that comes from the old age, the old paradigm, the old authorities, the old teachings, the old teachers, whatever it may be. And we're having to find the inner strength, the confidence, and the authority within ourselves to overcome these obstacles, to prove to ourselves how capable we are and how much we can get going ourselves. And that is the mastery, the initiation of Saturn into actually being a functioning, practically helpful human being, rather than just a potentially idealistic or wishful thinking dreamer, for example. And so, the analogy that I like to give with Saturn is he's kind of a little bit like the mean high school teacher that flunks us the whole damn year, forces us to study meticulously, forces us to get our shit together, but finally, when we pass that final exam and we're leaving the exam room, we pass by that teacher and he gives us a look with a funny twinkle in his eye that says, "Don't you know I did all this for you? I wanted to see who you are. I wanted you to see how strong you are, how much you can overcome, how powerful you are, how much of an authority you are. That way you can go out there in the world and do very good things." And so I am wishing you and your beloveds all the best on this shared endeavor. And I will continue to be with you and will connect with you next time. Take care.